If you are between 50 and 73 years old and you have ever had a year where you were not working, not paying national insurance, or simply not sure whether your record was complete, then what I am about to tell you could add a meaningful, permanent amount to your state pension for the rest of your life, not through a complicated investment, not through anything risky or uncertain, through a straightforward government-backed process that is available right now that costs a fixed, known amount and that delivers a guaranteed inflation-linked return that outperforms almost any savings product available to ordinary people in the United Kingdom. And there is a genuine reason not to wait, a real rolling deadline built into how the system works that means gaps available to fill today will quietly disappear in the months and years ahead if you do nothing. I want to be clear about something before we go any further, because there has been a lot of content circulating about national insurance top-ups, and some of it has not been accurate. A specific extended window that previously allowed people to go back and fill gaps as far as the 2006 to 2007 tax year had its own deadline, and that deadline has now passed. What I am covering today is the standard window, the permanent ongoing mechanism that allows you to fill gaps in your national insurance record going back 6 tax years from the current one. This window does not have a single dramatic closing date, but it does have a rolling structure that means every April, the oldest year available to fill drops off the back and is permanently closed. The gap from 2020 to 2021 is available to fill right now. Next April, it will not be. That is not manufactured urgency. That is how the system works, and it matters. Stay with me for the full video. I am going to explain exactly how national insurance qualifying years work and what they are worth, walk through the calculation so you can assess your own situation, cover the groups of people most likely to have fillable gaps and most likely to benefit from filling them, explain the one step you must take before paying anything, because skipping it is where people waste money, and give you a clear, ordered process from checking your record to making the payment. There is a right way to do this and a wrong way. I want to make sure you do it the right way. I spent close to 30 years as a tax accountant, and voluntary national insurance contributions came up consistently throughout that career as one of the most underused financial tools available to people approaching retirement. The reason they are underused is not because they are complicated. They are not, once you understand the mechanism. It is because nobody sits people down and explains them clearly. That is what today is for. Let us start with the fede. Pona de tensiosin. What is a qualifying year and why does it matter? Your state pension entitlement is built on your national insurance record. Every year in which you paid sufficient national insurance contributions, or in which you received national insurance credits because you were claiming certain benefits, caring for a child under 12, or caring for a disabled person, counts as a qualifying year. The full new state pension, for people who reach state pension age on or after April 6, 2016, requires 35 qualifying years. The minimum to receive any state pension at all is 10 qualifying years. If you have between 10 and 34 qualifying years, you receive a proportionally reduced pension, roughly 1/35 of the full weekly rate for each qualifying year you have. The full new state pension for 2026 to 2027 is approximately £230.25 per week. Check gov.uk for the precise current figure. 1/35 of that full weekly rate is approximately £6.57 per week. That is the additional weekly state pension income you receive for every remaining week of your retirement for each qualifying year you add to your record. Expressed annually, each qualifying year adds approximately £341 to your state pension income every year for the rest of your life, adjusted upward each April under the triple lock. Now let us look at what it costs to buy a qualifying year. The relevant class of voluntary contribution for most people filling gaps in their employment record is Class 3. The current rate for Class 3 voluntary contributions is approximately £824 per qualifying year. Check gov.uk for the current rate, as this is set annually and may differ from the figure I have given. At that cost, and with an annual return of approximately £341 of additional state pension income, you recover the cost of buying the year in just under 2.5 years of receiving your state pension. After that, the investment continues paying you every year for as long as you live. If you reach state pension age at 66 and live to 85, a reasonable life expectancy for someone currently in their 50s or 60s, that is 19 years of state pension income. A qualifying year bought for approximately £824 generates approximately £341 a year for 19 years, a total return of approximately £6,479 from a single investment of £824. That is a return of nearly 8 to 1, guaranteed by the government, index-linked, paid for life. There is nothing in the legitimate savings or investment market that comes close to that combination of security and return for most ordinary savers. I want to be honest about the limits of this calculation because accuracy matters. The figures I have given assume you receive the full return for the expected number of years. If you have a serious health condition that significantly affects your life expectancy, the calculation changes. And as I will explain shortly, not every gap in your record is worth filling. The critical question is whether buying a particular year will actually increase your state pension, and the answer to that is personal to your specific record. But for the right person in the right situation, and that describes a very large number of people watching this, the case for filling gaps is exceptionally strong. Now let me explain the 6-year window and why delay has a real and permanent cost. Under the standard rules for voluntary national insurance contributions, you can fill gaps in your record going back 6 tax years from the current one. The tax year runs from 6th April to 5th April, so in the current tax year, which runs from 6th April 2026 to 5th April 2027, the gaps available to fill under the standard window are those from the 2020 to 2021 tax year, 2021 to 2022, 2022 to 2023, 2023 to 2024, 2024 to 2025, and 2025 to 2026. The 2020 to 2021 gap is the oldest currently available. When April 2027 arrives and the new tax year begins, the 2020 to 2021 gap will drop off the back of the window and become permanently inaccessible. The 2021 to 2022 gap will become the oldest available, and so on. This rolling structure means that every year you delay, you potentially lose the opportunity to fill the oldest available gap. If you have a gap in 2020 to 2021 and you do not fill it before April 2027, that gap is gone. You cannot go back. The state pension income that year could have generated is lost permanently. That is the honest urgency in this situation. Not a single dramatic deadline, but a quiet annual rolling closure that removes 1 year from the available window each April. There's also a practical reason not to delay beyond the current year, even for gaps that are not at immediate risk of closing. The process of checking your record, confirming with the future pension center, and making the payment takes some time, particularly if your record requires clarification or if the pension center is busy during a peak period. Starting the process well ahead of April gives you the time to do it properly. Now I want to talk about who is most likely to have gaps worth filling, because this is where I want you to recognize yourself or someone you care about. The first group is women who took time out of the workforce to raise children, particularly in the 1980s and 90s. Before the current system of child benefit-linked national insurance credits was fully in place, years spent caring for children at home did not always generate automatic credits. Women who had children during that period may have gaps in their records from those years that no credits were applied to. If this is you, checking your record is particularly important because these gaps can be substantial and the cost of not addressing them can be significant over a long retirement. The second group is people who were self-employed during periods when their profits were low. If your self-employment profits fell below the small profits threshold in certain years, you may not have built up a qualifying year for those years, even if you were working throughout. The rules around Class 2 and Class 4 contributions for the self-employed are specific and worth checking carefully against your record. The third group is people who worked abroad for periods of their career. Time spent working outside the United Kingdom does not automatically generate UK national insurance credits unless you were posted abroad by a UK employer under specific reciprocal arrangements. People who emigrated for a period, who worked as international contractors, or who retired abroad before returning to the UK may have significant gaps corresponding to their time overseas. The fourth group is people who experienced periods of unemployment without claiming benefits. If you were between jobs and did not claim job seekers allowance or universal credit during that period, you would not have received the national insurance credits that those benefits generate. Those periods may appear as gaps in your record. The fifth group is people who took early retirement or reduced hours in their 50s and who have not yet reached state pension age. If you stopped working or significantly reduced your earnings before 66, you may have gaps for those years that could be filled voluntarily at a relatively low cost, generating returns that begin when your state pension starts. The sixth group, and this is broader than the others, is simply people who have never checked their record. If you are in your 50s or 60s and you have never looked at your national insurance record on gov.uk, you do not know whether you have gaps. Not knowing is not a neutral position. It is a position in which you cannot make an informed decision, and gaps that could be filled are quietly aging toward the point where they fall out of the window permanently. Please check. Now I want to address the single most important step in this entire process, the one that many people skip and where skipping it can lead to spending money on years that do not actually benefit them. Before you pay a single pound in voluntary national insurance contributions, you must check your personal state pension forecast on gov.uk, and you must call the Future Pension Centre to confirm which specific years are worth buying. Here's why this matters so much. The first reason is the 35-year cap. If you already have 35 or more qualifying years in your record, your state pension is already at or near the full rate. Buying additional years will not increase your pension beyond the full rate. The money would be spent for no return. Many people assume they have fewer qualifying years than they actually do, because years when they were receiving certain benefits, caring for children, or receiving credits through a partner's record may have been counted without them realizing. Check your actual total before spending anything. The second reason is the contracted out deduction. If you were a member of a contracted out occupational pension scheme at any point before April 2016, which applies to a very large number of people, particularly in the public sector, in utilities, in large financial institutions, and in other industries that ran defined benefit schemes, your new state pension starting amount was calculated with a deduction for the contracted out years. This deduction means that for contracted out individuals, reaching 35 qualifying years does not guarantee the full new state pension. You may need additional years beyond 35 to reach the full rate, or the deduction may be large enough that even buying all available gaps does not bring you to the full rate. The Future Pension Centre can tell you specifically for your record how many additional years would actually increase your pension and by how much. This information is not available simply from looking at your record online. You need the conversation with the Future Pension Centre to get the full picture. The Future Pension Centre is operated by the Department for Work and Pensions. The telephone number is on gov.uk. The call is free. When you call, tell them you are considering making voluntary national insurance contributions and ask them to confirm, based on your specific record, which years it would be beneficial to buy and what the impact on your forecast would be. Note the years they recommend, the number of years needed to reach the full rate, and whether your contracted out history affects the calculation. This call, which typically takes 20 to 30 minutes, is the essential step that separates a well-targeted, high-return decision from a poorly targeted one that wastes money on years that add nothing. Now let me walk you through the complete process from beginning to end in the right order. Step 1. Log into your personal tax account on gov.uk. If you do not have one, setting it up takes around 10 minutes using your national insurance number and a form of identity verification, your passport, driving license, or information from a recent tax return. Once logged in, navigate to the state pension section. You will see your current state pension forecast, your number of qualifying years, and a list of any gaps in your record, along with which years are available to fill and the cost of filling each one. Note all of this down before your next step. Step 2. Call the Future Pension Centre. The number is on gov.uk under Contact the Pension Service. Tell them you have checked your record on your personal tax account, that you have identified some gaps, and that you want to understand which gaps it would be beneficial to fill, given your specific record, including any contracted out history. Ask them to confirm the impact on your forecast of filling each available gap and which years to prioritize if your budget does not stretch to all of them. Step 3. Once you have confirmation from the Future Pension Centre of which years to buy and the total cost, contact HMRC to arrange the payment. The payment for voluntary national insurance contributions goes to HMRC, not to the Pension Service or the DWP. HMRC's National Insurance Helpline number is on gov.uk. They will provide you with the payment reference and bank details needed to make the payment. For most people, payment is made by bank transfer, though other methods are available. Use the correct reference number. This is essential for the payment to be correctly allocated to your record. Step 4. Keep a record of your payment confirmation. A screenshot, a printed receipt, or a note of the date, amount, and reference number. Processing times can vary, and having your own record means you can follow up promptly if the payment does not appear on your record within a reasonable period. Step 5. After 6 to 8 weeks, log back into your personal tax account and check that your national insurance record has been updated to show the filled years and that your state pension forecast has increased by the expected amount. If the record has not been updated after 8 weeks, contact HMRC's National Insurance Helpline with your payment details and ask them to confirm the status of the allocation. Step 6. Once your record is updated and your forecast reflects the filled years, make a note of your new forecast figure and keep it alongside your other retirement planning documents. Update your overall retirement income picture accordingly. Before I let you go, I want to say something directly to people watching this who are in their 50s and who may feel that retirement is still some years away and that this can wait. I understand that feeling. But the rolling nature of the window means that waiting has a specific, quantifiable cost. If you have a gap in 2020 to 2021 and you do not fill it before April 2027, that opportunity is gone. If you have multiple gaps across the available years, each April that passes without action removes 1 year from your options. The process itself takes time, particularly the Future Pension Center call, which can have waiting times during busy periods. Starting now means you have time to do this properly without rushing and without risk of missing a year that drops off the window before your payment is processed. The state pension is the most secure, most reliable, most inflation-proof income available to anyone in retirement in the United Kingdom. Strengthening it through voluntary contributions is one of the most straightforward, highest return financial decisions most people will ever make. Please check your record, make the call. Do not let the gaps close without at least knowing what they were worth.